Come on, Emily, don't make me laugh. Why did that send me? That in summer nights.
The way I want to hear his isolated vocals so badly from that, because he goes into it and you hear it for a good chunk of time, but that's a long note. And Olivia Newton-John starts to drown him out in the mix towards the end of it. You can't really hear him as much. I want to hear how long he held it and what it ended up sounding like at the end, because I know he can't hold that note straight on for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's why the mix faded him out. They were like, ooh, it's getting a little rough. But shoo-wop, shoo-wop, wop, blah, and boo, we go together. This is our podcast. It is the Swamp. It is an acronym.
Stands for some whack-ass movie podcasting.
And at the top of the episode, I will say we are covering Grease this week. It is Jen month. My mom, Jen, who hosts Chocolate or Vanilla every week, we let her pick all the movies because it's her birth month. She had a birthday, so we were like, you can pick all the movies, because we did that this past year, and she was like, can I pick them? And we were like, yes. So she's been picking them. I do want to apologize about last week. We covered Treasure Planet, and my audio was so fucking awful. I do not know what happened. I was using a new microphone that I thought would be an improvement, but then, like, I swear to you that I did a test where I recorded myself and it sounded fine. Then we did the episode, and it was so ungodly bad I didn't even edit the episode, because I'm like, I straight up do not want anyone to listen to this. I still put it out there into the world because I don't give a fuck, but truly, I'm sorry about the audio quality last week. That was a huge bummer, and I promise you nobody is more pissed about it than me. But hopefully this week we're going to get back on track, and we're going to talk about the 1978 musical hit Grease, which, can I ask you, like, what your, like, history with this movie is?
So, I watched this a lot growing up. It was certainly one of those movies that if it was on, we were watching it. It stayed on. Didn't matter if anyone was in the room or not. Like, that movie was playing on in the background. Which I also wanted to ask, because of how much I watched it, I can't really figure out if this movie is as iconic as it really is, or if it's just iconic to me because I grew up watching it so much.
Yeah, and so I guess...
Is it iconic?
I will say that I have seen this movie, I think, 3 times.
Okay.
This being my 3rd time, so not a lot at all. And the first time I ever saw it, I was in 4th grade, and I was at a friend's house, and she was like, I want to watch Grease 2. And she puts on Grease 2, because she's like, I love Grease 2. And, I mean, we're in 4th grade, and her mom comes in, and it's like, Grease 2. And she turns to me, she's like, Dara, have you seen Grease 1? And I was like, no. Like, I'm fucking 10. Like, what do you... She was like, oh my god, Leah, turn off Grease 2. We need to show Dara Grease 1. And I was like, okay.
She's so real for that.
Yeah, and so we watched Grease 1, and I just remember being like, honestly, I wouldn't have given a fuck if we kept 2 on. Like, I don't really know. So it definitely did not really leave too much of an impression on me. And then I definitely watched it again at some point in my older years, but this is the first time I truly, like, sat down to watch it with a mindful eye.
Same.
And I do think it was iconic, yes. From what I can gather, it is iconic. My big debacle about it is that, to me, within the first 10 fucking seconds of this movie, you understand that it's a parody, it's a satire. It is making fun of movies or, like, media from the 50s. Yeah. But it almost seems produced and written and presented in a way that is so genuinely wanting the audience to love it for exactly what it was. Yeah. And I was straight up texting my mom. I was like, did you guys like this because it was making fun of something that you were familiar with? And you're like, oh, this is like a funny, like, bit about the 50s? Or were you genuinely all like, this is a piece of media that we just earnestly love? And I was like, I think it was iconic, but not for the reasons why it was, like, made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely had taken me a while to realize that it was a satire, because I watched it when I was so young, like, so many times. And while I feel like I had watched it so many times, this was the first time in probably, like, 4 years or so that I watched it, because, you know, I don't live in my parents' house anymore and I don't have cable. But yeah, you kind of said it similarly. Like, you watched it with, like, a critical eye, and I felt like there was so much more that I caught in this watch, and, like, how inappropriate and how, or not inappropriate, but how, like, explicit some of the content was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yes, inappropriate, especially if this movie's rated PG.
That's
so
crazy.
It could be branded as like a family film, I guess, but it is just so flat out misogynistic,
Crazy,
and, like, overtly sexual. Definitely, like, the morals are incredibly questionable, which are all things that I think are fine to exist within the sphere of parody or satire or whatever. But I don't think that this movie's actually making any commentary about the 50s. They're like, we're gonna do a parody of the 50s, but, like, what? There's no lesson. Like, there's no, like, gotcha. Mm-mm. It's just like, and that's it.
They just made the exact same thing and hoped that people would view it with a different lens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess they're just, like, weren't, like, the jokes weren't, like, at the expense of the situation. It just seemed very, genuinely misogynistic and sexist.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for it to be rated PG is crazy, considering that there's a scene where Rizzo's like, yeah, raw dog me.
Yeah, literally. Literally.
So, I mean, yeah, nothing was really expanded upon in the way that a satire would be.
Yeah, right? Or
but,
just, like,
again, still iconic. I think it's the only thing that I think that made it maybe more aware is how over the top some of it was, you know. And if you've never seen any Chris Fleming bits or YouTube videos, go check him out. But he has this really
it will be linked. I will be linking this.
Dara will link it. We saw this bit live when he recorded it, which was fucking hysterical. You can probably hear our loud ass cackles in the back of the audience. But he has this really great clip from one of his specials where he talks about one of the things that John Travolta does in, like, the very, like, the second to last song. What is it called?
You better shape up.
Yeah, that one. Whatever. Yeah. Where he's rolling on the ground like an animal at how sexy Olivia Newton-John is. It's hysterical.
Chris Fleming says that he's in a fugue state, which really, really informed my viewing this time around. I was like, yeah, Chris, you actually hit the nail on the head on that one. Exactly. Danny Zuko is in a fugue state for, like, most of this movie.
90%, dude.
Like, it's wild. But yeah, that actually, if you didn't bring it up first, I was gonna have that be my what you should follow this up with. I do have an actual movie picked out, but literally the second the credits started to roll, I watched this with Henry. I was like, Henry, have you seen this Chris Fleming bit? Like, come on.
But yeah, it's so much of this movie is so over the top. It's the whole thing that you, like, introed the pod with the "don't make me laugh." Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's amazing.
Which I think the only thing, now that I give it some thought, that is pushing satire is that the 50s were very conservative, right? Mm-hmm. It was very, like, traditional, gender roles, women stay at home, very that. And
yes, the nuclear family.
The 60s happen, and now we're deep into the 70s, where we're a little bit more liberal. We've got some more free thinking going on, and I think
birth control's been invented.
Right, and I think that the guy who, I don't know if the writer, the director, someone said that his goal with this was to do a parody of a 50s story, but reverse the roles. It's usually the girl who changes the boy. He's the bad boy, and she whips him into shape and makes him, you know, she usually, you know, turns him into a husband material. And he wanted it to be the other way. For what reason, I do not know.
It's just his fantasy.
Yeah, right? Like, sick, twisted, like, and then she shows up in mommy leather and stumps a cigarette. Like, okay. Like, so your point is, but I will say all of the very, like, openly sexual hip thrusting were this movie is so horny. These teenagers, I say that lightly. These 45-year-old men are so horny, it's become a clinical mental issue that all the characters in this movie are so lust driven that they are unable to behave like rational human beings, and that is kind of funny in the context of a 50s like poodle skirts and we're going to the dive bar, but it's like, and we're fucking like that's that's
don't forget I'm rock hard. Yeah, this movie is insanely horny. There is one scene, there's a couple of scenes that I had to rewind and watch again during this, but the hand jive scene is crazy.
Jerking off. Did your like elementary school chorus make you learn this? The hand jive dance. I think every like middle school or elementary school chorus in America did the hand jive motion, which felt very innocent at the time. Yeah. I started doing it. Henry's like, "Why do you know this?" And I was like, "Did your chorus not like hand jive?" No, like that's crazy. But it's literally the jive was getting a little out of control.
Well, it's the scene where Kaneki gets on the ground, and obviously that's the whole thing, is he starts like mimicking jerking off or whatever. But there's this very specific drum break happens, and everything starts to hit the fan. And
orgy.
Yeah, well, the way the camera is like shooting this too, for some reason, really, really scratched my brain right, because it almost becomes you're like a fly on the wall in this mess of a dance hall. And I loved it. I rewound it probably twice to rewatch it, because also you don't get dance sequences like this anymore. I don't think that we could ever remake Grease because people can't move like this anymore. People used to know how to dance. People can't dance anymore. There's like an ease with these dancers in this movie that is just simply not achievable these days. The only person that we could put in front of the camera and that could maybe do this right is Zac Efron. And that's it.
I was about to say, there are two flaws with your statement. A, I will correct you, Emily, white people can't do this.
That's true.
But white people, no, no chance. Unless Kenny Ortega is involved. Unless it's 2012, we've got Zac Efron, Kenny Ortega, who I have since learned upon listener Brooke Drew sending us a message being like, "Hey, you guys praise Kenny Ortega a lot, but do you not know that he's a groomer?" And I was like, "Whoa! Thank you for that information," because literally every time I was like, "Oh my god, Kenny Ortega's name on my screen like makes my heart sore." No, not anymore. But that man does know how to get the kids to dance, whether it be through abuse or other means.
But yeah, no, white people could never dance, but like, at least there was some sort of, they weren't as like herky-jerky as they are today. We are today. I can't dance for my life. No. If you put me in this situation, I would have been one of the girls on the bench. You're not seeing me move my little hips.
Tapped. Out. Done. Cut.
No.
I will say,
no shot.
I think the thing that
I have to be plastered to dance.
And like, then it's bad. Like, it's getting...
Yeah, it's still bad.
It's getting bad, but...
I know my place.
But I feel like the thing that is fueling these people in this way that you're describing is the immense amount of cocaine they must all have been on. Mm-hmm. This entire movie, I'm like, name a person other than Olivia Newton-John who's not cracked the fuck out. Everyone...
I bet Olivia Newton-John was coked the fuck up.
She maybe was, but watching this movie, I'm like, okay, so being Sandy is like being the sober friend, right? Where it's like, everyone around you is cocked. Everyone around you is fucking ripping lines, and Sandy's like, ha ha ha, okay guys, maybe we should do something else? Yeah. And everyone's like, fuck you, we're gonna have sex on the ground! And you're like, okay, well, I'm supposed to drive you home in 45 minutes, but I guess. It's very, like, that's her energy that she's giving, and everyone else is like,
yes.
You know, she's trip-sitting, and it's...
Absolutely.
And it's not going well.
Well, which I love, because, I mean, the other scene that I had to rewind probably 2 or 3 times was the song Sandra D. For some reason, the actress that played Rizzo just had me mesmerized in that.
Stockard Channing, fucking legend.
Fucking legend. I don't know what it is, but she just put her entire pussy into that song. And I was, again, mesmerized. Could not take my eyes off that screen. The way that she did those goofy-ass line deliveries. Elvis, let me be.
I found her to actually be, like, a pretty complex and interesting character. Like, watching the movie, I was like, they are starting a lot of, like, really sort of, like, self-conflicted stuff with her that just never really gets resolved, but not even just, like, the pregnancy stuff, but that certainly adds to it, but just her whole, like, she's the head of this friend group, but you can tell that there's, like, some sort of, like, she's not, like, she is super confident, but she's also kind of secretly really insecure, and, like, she's doing all this stuff to come off really cool, but then she has these, like, really vulnerable moments that I was like, wow, that's crazy that we never, like, really get into any of that. Because she also seems like she has so many walls up, right? Like, especially with the stuff with Kaneki, like, she thinks she's pregnant and she's like, it's my problem to deal with, like, all that shit. It's just kind of an interesting kind of character that I feel like we don't see a lot. And I was like, oh, and then the movie, she's just like, oh, the pregnancy's over and everything's fine. And then it's like, oh, then the movie's over. And it was just like, then what was all that for? Because I feel like we were really starting to learn something about her.
Well, she felt like the only actor in this film that actually probably went and did the homework and sort of developed these complexities within her character. Everyone else kind of seems like they showed up to set and they're like, we're gonna do a silly, goofy musical. And she went home and she plotted and schemed and she developed layers. And she's the most interesting character in the film.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I would say it's because she's 33.
Also true.
But almost everyone else is also 33. I would say it's like, she has the sage wisdom of a 33-year-old actress who knows, you know, to do background character work, but, like, what's your excuse? Like, Olivia Newton-John's 28. Like, literally everyone in this movie is 25 plus. Especially 30 plus.
Yeah, I think the lowest it goes is one of the actresses was like 2021, one of the girls in the Pink Ladies. And everyone else is, I think 26 to 33 years old.
Mean, median, and mode.
John Travolta was 23.
Yeah, but we're capping out around at our average numbers being roughly 30.
Yes.
Like, I thought David Krumholtz in 10 Things I Hate About You was looking like a father of four with his own accounting firm. But Sonny in this movie, washed up, divorced, kids are moved out. Like, that is a 56-year-old man.
Here's my thing, though, is do you think that young actors or actresses could make a movie as iconic as this? Because while I do think it's pretty whack to look at Kaneki and say that's an 18-year-old, I don't know that, like, an actor that's, like, 22, 23 today could make a movie as charming as this still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it also helps, like, watching it back to us, it's like a thing of the past. And to me, whenever I look at pictures of people in high school in the 80s, I'm like, that, you all look 40. Like, why did everyone look so old?
Yeah.
To me, because I'm sure it was just normal. They didn't think they looked old then, and I'm sure people in 20 years will think that we looked old when we were in high school because just, like, styles and trends will have changed.
I don't know.
But I'm like, I look at what we looked like in high school and I'm like, that's a baby. And then I look at, like, you know, my mom's yearbook and I'm like, all of you looked 30. Like, all of you just looked mature. I don't know.
But at the same time, like, I look at some kids today, and some kids actually look like kids. Some 15-year-olds look like fucked up, like, awkward, uncomfortable 15-year-old, which is what you're supposed to look like. And some 15-year-olds look like they could be a senior graduating college because they've got their full face beat and they know how to contour. I didn't know how to contour. I still don't know how to contour.
I was just about to say, I think makeup skills and, like, accessibility with YouTube,
Scary.
like, with YouTube videos of, like, girls being able to fucking snatch themselves for the gods, like, fully in 6th grade, looking just, like, 27. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't feel appropriate.
But also, like, I don't know,
like, you
express yourself, but...
express yourself, but I do think that everyone should, like, pay the Pied Piper and look busted for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So.
But I want to talk about the opening scene of this movie. If you... we're not going to recap Grease.
The Frankie Valli?
I'm not going to recap Grease for anyone who hasn't seen it. And even if you haven't seen it, yes, you have. Like, you have, through cultural osmosis, you know what Grease is about. I'm sorry.
Yes, exactly.
But I just wanted to talk about the opening scene of this movie where they're, in the beginning, they're about to sing Summer Lovin', right? They're going to Summer Love sing about it. But this is where we get the little clip of them at the beach of, like, this is the end of their romance, right? This is our very first introduction to these two characters. And just, it's so weird. John Travolta is wearing full-length pants. Like, they are not dressed for the beach. They clearly just showed up to set, and they were like, okay, well, we didn't get you costumes for this, so just wear your school clothes. And it's so funny. They're having such a good time. He's, like, throwing handfuls of sand at her so aggressively. Like, there is something sinister and mean about this film and about John Travolta's behavior. Like, this is a psychological thriller. I'll fucking say it. If a man whipped a handful of sand at me on a beach day, I'd be like, I'm calling the cops. Like, absolutely fucking not. And then, of course, we kind of crack into the multiple instances of when he, like, forces himself on her, where he kisses her, and she literally pulls away and says, no, don't ruin it. And this is our very first time we see them together, is him doing something that makes her uncomfortable, her expressing no, and then him continuing to do it. That's the very first thing. And when in the movie does he ever learn that that's not okay? Never. Never. He continues to do it. She just continues to run away each time and then come back to him. And then at the end of the movie, the lesson is if you show up in full PVC leather and just act like a dominatrix, that he actually will respect you. So fucking crazy. It was the sand throwing for me. I was like, absolutely, the fuck not.
Yeah, I'd be dead mad. I do want to ask, because their whole first song is kind of them going back and forth about how, oh, he was so lovely, he was such a gentleman, he made me feel so nice, and him singing to his friends, oh, she let me hit it. Oh my god, she let me hit it. How far do you think that these two actually went that summer? Is Sandy as good of a girl as she comes off? Or is she gonna get a little messy?
I think that
because we know Danny's a slob.
I think they kissed, obviously, because we see it, but I don't think it went any past making out, because we see him try to touch her boob, and she's like, what the fuck, man? Like, hey, not cool. So there's no fucking shot. Like, if they had any sort of rapport in any other way, that would have been a very different conversation.
You think?
And I think, of course, he's playing it up to his friends. That's the whole point, is that she's like, the you that I know is not the you are around your friends. And he's obviously like, it seems like it should be so tongue-in-cheek, right? That they should be like, hey, wink, wink, did you get some? The song is literally like, did you fuck her cunt? Like literally not even a little subtle. Like, did she slob on your knob? And I'm just like, where is the decorum? Where's the wink wink nudge nudge? Like, what?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So of course he's playing it up like, oh yeah, we got down in the sand, and her version is like, we had a milkshake. And he won me a toy at the fair. Like that. I believe women, so I believe Sandy.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. Oh my goodness. That first song is insane, though.
Did they say, did she put up a fight? I'm pretty sure they do. I'm just like, oh no. Because that's the whole foundation of Danny Zuko's toxic masculinity, is him being like, me and my friends, we don't get girls through, like, charming them and being nice. We get them through force, and force alone. Right? Because basically he's like, I can't be nice to her in front of my friends. I have to, like, physically, you know, restrain her and be gross, when it's like, in truth, you already got her by being a normal person. So just
Yeah.
Why would that make your friends respect you less? But that seems to be their whole thing, is that they're like tough guys.
Yeah. Which I love when it kind of strips them back and it's like, it really puts them in their place. Like, Kanicki's sitting there, he's like, oh my god, the condom broke. And Rizzo's sitting there, she's like, literally, how is the condom broken? And he's like, I got it in the 7th grade.
Right, fully implying that he has never had sex until this very moment, right? And all of them are asking, like, you know, behaving this way. But I'm like, you're just like everyone else, you sicko. Just be honest. Just be vulnerable with your friends. Why male friendships? You guys should just tell each other the truth and support each other emotionally. And then we won't. But then you wouldn't get songs like Grease Lightning, so...
Oh my god. Well, Grease Lightning is another one that has some crazy lyrics. The words, the chicks'll cream, is a lot. That's a lot. There
are I believe, two lyrics in that song specifically that they change for, like, the majority of stage productions of this. And it is the chicks, the chicks will scream is what they change it to.
Yeah.
And then there's another, it's like, literally, they say something like, her pussy's dragging on the ground, or something fucking like that. Like some shit that they say that it's just like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? They're all, and meanwhile, they're like, we're fucking chicks and fixing cars. Fruity behavior. Acting gayer than I've ever seen anyone be.
The hip shaking, the dancing, oh my god.
The cut-off tank tops, like,
that's a lesbian.
Like, add a carabiner to John Travolta's outfit in this movie, and that is every lesbian.
And she's still not getting pussy.
Yeah. She's too nervous. She's scared to talk to women.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Oh my god. Shoobop, shawada wada yippity boom de bop. Scuba doo bop, bee bam, skibba doo boop. Guess who it is? It's Jen. Here to do her interim podcast segment, Chocolate or Vanilla. She's gonna say two things. We're all gonna say which one we like better. Jen, how are you?
I am good.
And is there a theme this week?
So there is a theme. It's going to be all things from the 70s.
Brilliant.
Love.
So I was inspired because Dara was like, why did everyone like this movie? And then I started thinking about all the things from the 70s that, like, of course they're trash now, but back in the 70s, it was like, it was a good thing.
My question to you was less, why did people like this? My question was more, did the people who like this understand that it was satire? To which you said that you did not think so.
No, I mean, like, we knew it was making fun of the 50s, but we still thought it was good, like, standalone good, just because there wasn't that much else to compare it to.
Fair enough. Jen, I do want to ask, around, like, what age were you when this movie came out?
Yeah, so Dara was asking the same thing. So I was 10.
Okay.
But I don't think I saw it in theaters when I was 10.
Yeah.
So my best friend was 12, and
she was 12.
She was 12. She was almost a teenager. And she had the cassette tape, and we would sit at the playground, because I lived across the street from a playground, and play the cassette tape while she had this paperback book with, like, pictures of throughout the movie with speech balloons, like, looked almost like a comic strip of the dialogue from the movie. And so maybe that's why it just holds a lot of nostalgia for that reason. And everybody listened to every song of that soundtrack for the better
It is a
part
pretty
of the
gas soundtrack.
But I do have a theme. It's all things 70s. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
I'll say chocolate today. I just pounded. Do you know those big fancy chocolate bars? They're giant. You'll find them at, like, Whole Foods. They're called, like, Maddie's or some shit like that, and they have, like, those really colorful wrappers. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm cheap as hell.
Fair enough. But
did it have, like, a flavor to it, or was it just
yes, it was salted caramel, but it wasn't like caramel filled. It had these little chunks of like hardened caramel almost.
Like little toffee bits?
Yes, like little toffee bits and salt with it. It was so good. I saved a little bit for tomorrow morning because I'm going to put it in my coffee cup and then pour over my coffee and make a little mocha for myself.
Oh my god.
I want candy coffee. I am going to go also chocolate then. Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry?
Chocolate.
Sticking chocolate today.
Yeah, chocolate. Chocolate for the double sweet. Mm-hmm. Okay, first one is shag carpet in every room in your house, including the kitchen and the bathroom. Not gonna lie. Lava lamp or dark wood paneling.
Oh!
Wow. The design choices, I'm gonna say, I think they hold up. I think it's just one of those cyclical,
I love
like things that come back into style. And I think the 70s thing it's something that really itches my brain.
Oh my god.
I will say, carpet in your bathroom is disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Demi Moore. Demi Moore did this interview for some reason where she's sitting in her bathroom and she fully has a carpeted bathroom and everyone was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? We're like, well, I'm like, girl, I know you don't clean it, so that's a choice.
Uh-huh.
We had carpet in the kitchen. We had carpet in the bathroom.
That's my worst nightmare, like sensory-wise, absolutely not. But so I am gonna have to say a lava lamp. I love a lava lamp. I love the motif of a lava lamp, the shape, the design, elegant, sexy, cool, all of it.
Yeah. I'm very much a 70s kind of guy when it comes to my decor. Mid-century modern is back in such a fierce way, but such an expensive way. Mm-hmm. But I currently have my lava lamp running right now, so I will have to go for a lava lamp.
Nice. Now, I'm not going to say every room in the house, but Darren knows I love shaggy carpets. I would always try to buy them for our house, and everyone would be like, no, Jen, you can't buy that. So, I am going to go shag carpet.
I like a shaggy carpet. I'm usually don't love having my exposed toes on the ground, but if there was a shaggy carpet around, I'd take my socks off for it.
Right, exactly. Next one, ABBA or Bowie?
ABBA. I'm sorry. Like, yeah. I love David Bowie as well, but I think on a day-to-day basis, I simply listen to ABBA, like, so much more.
Yeah, there's nothing I'm going to be more stoked to hear in a department store than Mamma Mia. So.
I knew you guys would say ABBA.
Yeah, ABBA.
I'll say ABBA, too. Yeah, I'll say ABBA. Next one, Star Wars or Jaws?
Star Wars. As we covered earlier in our ET episode, I've never seen Jaws, which I probably should as a cinephile, but I'll say Star Wars.
Yeah, it's definitely Star Wars for me. That was I grew up with the prequels, so
yeah, same, of course, Star Wars. Next one is your tube socks pulled all the way up. They have 3 stripes, 2 colors, and or a mood ring.
Ooh, I don't think mood rings are real. Because has anyone ever put on a mood ring and got a color other than blue?
No.
That's not true. Like, that's just not real. Just, I don't know. Let's pivot to something else. It's a fun and cute idea, but it is simply unrealistic.
Uh-huh.
And I definitely used to wear in high school, I used to wear big, like, knee socks pulled up. Mine usually would have, like, a quirky, like, an alien smoking a joint, or like something fucking stupid on the side, or like, you know, it says like motherfucking girl power, or like,
yeah, it's blue,
you know, those socks for sure. But I definitely was pulled the socks all the way up kind of girly, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm a high socks kind of guy as well. I've definitely gotten clowned for it before too. They're like, why the fuck are your socks all the way up to your knees? But I find it comfy and cozy. Yeah, definitely a tube sock guy.
I am not trying to have the draft hit my fucking ankles. And I got leg hair, too. Like, my leg hair cannot be standing up on end. I need to protect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the tube socks, too. That was, you'd pull your tube socks all the way up, and like I said, it would be like blue, red, blue, or green, yellow, green.
I like that.
And then you'd have the gym shorts with the white trim.
Love it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
the
that
tiny
was
little
cool.
shorts. And the men had the tiny little shorts too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Bring that back.
Nobody wore the baggy shorts.
Paul Mescal, I'm looking at you. Bring it back.
And then I was gonna say on mood rings, like, so with the COVID pandemic, they made rings that like supposedly told your temperature on your finger. And I bought one. I bought a cheap one because I was like, oh, I don't want to be bothered with tracking my temperature every day for work. I'm just gonna wear this ring, and it was trash. It didn't like change at all.
Yeah, of course.
So I just think it was the same science as mood rings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Next one is SNL or Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever is that movie with John Travolta.
The one that you thought was Boogie Nights. Yeah.
Right. I have some modern feelings about SNL. I don't know anything about how SNL was back in the 70s. I'm sure a lot of not great shit was happening on behind the scenes of that. Like, I'm sure it's just like riddled with drug abuse and sexual misconduct, but I'm sure so was Boogie Nights or Saturday Night Fever. Rather. And that movie, some guy kills himself because he gets a girl pregnant. That movie is fucking crazy. So I'm gonna say SNL because I'm sure it was better back then than it is now.
Yes.
And I was gonna look up when it originated, but I think it was in the 70s.
It was the 70s. Yeah. As someone who around the holidays watches the Saturday Night Live Christmas special every year, I will have to go SNL. There are a couple of really classic bits that I love. And I mean, while SNL does suck these days, the prime time of it, which was like the early 2000s to like 2012 or 13, when like Seth Meyers and Tina Fey and like Bill Hader and Amy Poehler were all on it. Love that shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with SNL also. Yeah, it started in 1975. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, like Gilda Radner doing Rosanna Dana. Yeah, so good. Next one for toys, Simon or Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Who is Simon?
So Simon is that round thing with the 4 colors and it lights up and you have to repeat it.
Oh, yeah.
The original Bop It.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like Rock'em Sock'em Robots never worked as, like, you would press the button and there would be kind of a delay. You know, it never really was up to speed with what I wanted it to be. So I will pick, because I loved me some Bop It. Bop It, Twist It, Pull It, Shout It. We also had a Rubik's Cube that was like that. In each of the middles, you had to hit the colors, and it would say, it would be like red, green, orange, blue. And I could do that shit so fucking fast. Like,
that seems like something you would have gotten really hyper-fixated on.
Yeah.
And gotten really good at. I'll go for the Simon as well. Rock'em Sock'em Robots, I think, got a little too heated between me and my brother sometimes, and it was not always fun because of that. So I liked a solo game.
Started out as fun.
Do you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say something controversial. I think Hungry Hungry Hippos is a superior product design as far as smashing a button and getting a plastic thing to do something competitive. So much better than Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, and you can do 4 people instead of 2, so you can have at least like your anger directed at 3 other individuals instead of 1.
And it said Hungry Hungry Hippos for the 70s, but in my head, I'm like, no, that was 80s. That was not 70s, but I know that the internet is probably right. I will say Simon also. I couldn't say Rubik's Cube because Rubik's Cube was very 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one is Donny Osmond or Andy Gibb.
Who's Andy Gibb?
Oh, so he's the younger brother of the Bee Gees. And look him up, Google him, he was so cute. He died young, which was really tragic, but he was like the heartthrob. These are 2 70s heartthrobs.
I'll say Andy Gibb.
Oh, he was, he is very cute.
Yeah.
Dara, look him up.
I'll say Andy Gibb, because I do love me some Bee Gees, and also, isn't Donny Osmond a Mormon?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure he might be fine, but just the Mormons as a whole kind of rub me the wrong way. So I'll go with Mr. Beachy.
Garrett,
is he?
look him up while I talk. He's got almost a Heath Ledger little like smirk.
Stop! Is this gonna do something to me? Is this gonna awaken something in me?
Well-deserved heartthrob status for Andy Gibb.
It might.
But I'm gonna go with Andy Gibb too. We were a Bee Gees household. My mom loved Barry Gibb. Me and Julie were twins. Yeah.
I unfortunately have to go with Donny Osmond on this one, even though Andy Gibb is such a cutie. My mom was very much a Donny Osmond girl, and I grew up listening to all of his hits, and every now and then I would get drunk and watch his version of Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's like me and my sister, we both shared like 2 bottles of wine, and my brother all sitting there just amazed because like we watched this growing up so often.
Right. And like you loved it because your mom loved it, right? You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah. And I will say that is an underrated musical. I like Donnie's version a lot better than the original Broadway cast. I don't know, he just kind of hit it.
Yeah. And there was a show called The Donnie and Marie Show, which was on like...
Yup.
And
my mom's got those records still.
He wore purple socks. Like, if you like Donny Osmond, wear purple socks. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god, that's so Justin Bieber. Like, the Beliebers wear
purple.
My god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Nothing is new. We're all living at the same shared experience. Like, there's
a loop. It's a loop. Next one is Off the Wall or The Wall. So, like, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, or Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Pink Floyd, The Wall, I think is like the first record I ever got when I was like, I'm gonna be edgy and get a record player when I was like in 8th grade.
That makes sense.
And my dad gave me his thing of The Wall. And
that's really cool of him.
Yeah, and I remember watching like the music videos on YouTube, like of the clippets of the movie and stuff, and thinking that was just like the coolest fucking shit ever. And I was like, oh my god, I'm like not like other girls. Like I know who Pink Floyd is. But that album definitely has like a good stamp in my, nostalgia.
I'm gonna have to go Michael Jackson on this one. I love Michael Jackson. I don't know, that album is so funky. It's so good. I drum to that album a lot, so.
That album had so many hits on it. Like,
banger after banger.
Yeah. It's like, I don't really love when people say, like, let's separate the art from the artist when talking about, like, people who are problematic, because I'm like, no, we do need to hold people accountable, but sometimes Michael Jackson comes on, and I'm like, I do see you have a point there. Like, like, I'm sorry.
Some artists aren't good enough to be removed from their art. And then there's Michael Jackson.
It's like Michael Jackson and Kevin Spacey. I'm like, I'm gonna give you to for myself.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm gonna separate you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Like R. Kelly, not good enough to be separated.
Absolutely not.
Michael Jackson.
That we had the 8-track of that. Same. We like definitely another one played on loop at my house. Last one is the first Muppet movie from 1979, or the original Freaky Friday.
Oh, I've never seen the original Freaky Friday, and I don't know, some podcast lore here. Emily and I were gonna do Freaky Friday on the podcast at one point, and we watched it, and we were simply like, other than talking about how bad we want to fuck Jamie Lee Curtis, like, what are we even gonna say? And so we just pivoted, and I think we then pivoted and watched Mother, which is like such a strange choice. But interesting, and we're a very pro Muppet podcast, as I'm sure everyone is well aware. So I will be choosing the original Muppets.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go for the original Muppets as well. I love the classic ones.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Freaky Friday. That was, again, kind of one of the first body switch movies, and I was of the age where I thought it was cool. So that is it for my trip down memory lane.
Jen, I want to ask you a chocolate or vanilla.
Oh my god.
Because you kind of lived through this section of history where so much, like, the way that you consumed music changed so much. I want to ask vinyl, cassette, or 8-track.
Yeah, you know what? So, again, maybe it's a timing thing. I was a cassette person. I had, like, the cassettes in the cases. You had to take good care of them because if it started to come out, it would get ruined. Or if your boombox was old, it would back it up and chew up your tape, you know. But all in all, like, did I like them better? I mean, I definitely had way more cassettes than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're mobile, too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that made a big difference.
Yeah, and I just, honestly, like, I had a record player when I was little, but, like, for cassettes, we had, like, the Sony Walkman, and we had the boombox with the 2 speakers, and you put the cassette in the middle, and you would make a mixtape for your friends. Like, you would wait to hear a song on the radio and try to time it so that you hit record at the right time, so that you would get, like, the mixtape. And if someone made you a mixtape, like, that meant, like, they really loved you. Like,
there's work involved with that.
Oh, yeah,
like,
and then
making someone a playlist these days is not the same.
Yeah, and then you would write it, like, in the inside of the tape deck. You would write out the songs and everything. But, oh, yeah, it was a project. It was a project.
That's very cute. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jen, for this chocolate or vanilla, but also thank you for picking Grease. This was a really fun, kind of a fun and unexpected pick. And thank you for all your picks this month. And also thank you, you're going to be over on the Patreon if anyone wants to pay $2.86 to hear me, Emily, and Jen do a whole episode on Big Hero 6. That'll be out later this week. So heads up for that, and pre-main feed thanks to Jen, as always, for being here, hosting your segment, and just overall being wonderful. Happy Jen Month.
Aww. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I love you. Have an awesome night.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
One of my favorite details about this, just because I felt like I picked up a lot more in this watch, was the idea that the one coach that they have coaches every sport.
All the sports. That's a scene that I definitely, like, felt like it was the very first time I was ever watching it. That whole sequence of him, like, trying out for every sport or whatever and just, like,
really
fucking sucking ass. I had no recollection of that ever happening. Because I always really put this movie into the category of, like, she changes for him, right? It's like, she... for 99% of the movie is herself, and then at the very end it's like, oh, light bulb, this is how I get him to finally respect me, is to be just as sexy as, you know, humanly possible. So she changes to fit his aesthetic, but I always kind of forget that he also, like, tries to change for her.
A little bit.
He's like, oh, she likes sporty guys, let me take up cross country. Like, so random, but, like, by the end of the movie he fully is like, yeah, I have, like, a letterman in cross country. Like, he fully committed and did a season of a sport for her. Of course, he throws the jacket off and to the side the minute she shows up in leather. Like, he's like, wait, forget it. Forget I did a hobby for you, babe. Like, sorry. Didn't realize you were gonna flip-flop so fast.
Exactly.
But that whole scene of him, like, not knowing what basketball even is, I'm like, John Travolta is experiencing, like, a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation where just, like, an otherworldly being is possessing his body in certain moments of this film, where it's like, suddenly he's like, I am sorry, I simply don't know what basketball is. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know what basketball is, buddy? Like,
it's so funny because I saw Poor Things on 35 right before I watched this yesterday. And it's like the same thing of, like, there's a scene where Mark Ruffalo is like, I don't understand how you know this long and complex word, but you don't know what a banana is.
Yeah, that's literally Danny Zuko, like, can fix a car, but, like, does not know what a basketball is.
Exactly.
Oh my god. But also the way, like, we went to a tech high school. We went to it was a regular high school, but it was also, it had an option, so it was a technical high school as well, and you got to decide, you know, if you wanted to do regular high school or tech high school. So we were around kids who were, like, fully building houses, like, on the clock during school hours. Like, I'm
yeah.
not unfamiliar with this concept. But the fact that they just, like, were fixing up Kanicki's car during the school day for credit?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Because they clearly have a shop teacher. Like, she's there supervising them. But it's
Loved
just, like,
her.
I'm like, are we just gonna be like, oh yeah, my Subaru's broken down. Do you guys mind if I, like, bring it in for class today? Like, is that does not feel OSHA certified to me.
I don't know. We kind of had a teacher like that, though. When you think about it, we talked about this the other week, how he was like, yeah, bring in roadkill and we'll dissect it in class. It's like the same thing.
I guess so, yeah. But I was like, do they take math? Do they take American Lit?
No.
Do any of
no
these
chance.
boys know how to read? Like, I don't think so.
Absolutely not. I do want to ask, what car did you think was cooler? Because I thought the Scorpion's car was way cooler than Greased Lightning.
So much cooler. Every time it, like, spit fire out the back, I was like...
So fresh.
That would get me riled up. I would get in that passenger seat. I'm not even a car girl. I don't even fuck with it like that, but that was a cool car.
Yeah. I also loved Cha-Cha, who is essentially, I don't know who the other antagonist is. I can't think of his name. But I just loved Cha-Cha and John Travolta dancing their little ass off. And it's not even like she's really trying to spite Sandy like that. It really isn't. She just has her eye on the prize, and she wants that American Bandstand trophy.
Cha-Cha?
And I respect her for that. She had to do what she had to do to get her spot in the limelight.
Cha-Cha is 45 years old, and Cha-Cha is, like, fucking the pool boy. Cha-Cha is a MILF. Like, I'm like, that's fully someone's mom who goes to school here.
I think she was 30-something when she did this, but yeah.
That's, Eugene, the kid that they are like, we're gonna murder you in the hallways. Yeah. That's Eugene's mom. Like, that's straight up a MILF. I was like, absolutely, like... I know, I'm not going to keep getting into how the 35-year-olds are taking me out because we'd be here forever, but it was her especially. Yeah. I was like, that is a sexually experienced woman. That is a woman who has reached her sexual peak at 36. Like, absolutely no fucking shot. Am I even suspending my disbelief for a second about this? About Miss Cha-Cha.
Yeah, she's one of the worst offenders.
He also, throughout that dance scene, on several occasions, like, fully teabags her. Like, fully sits on her face. And
there was a handful of times in that entire dance sequence where multiple different people were teabagging each other. Is that just how dancing happened?
I guess. I mean, like, when in the 2010s, when we were in high school, everyone was, like, doing the bump and grind. I guess it was just fully face-sitting back then. Like...
You know what, honestly, I would still take that over what we had.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Horrific.
Absolutely not.
I do love the idea of the principal telling the entire school, we've sent the tape to the FBI for their ass specialists to figure out whose butts that was on the screen when you guys decided to moon the broadcast.
The gaping holes that you presented, actually, we did gather DNA evidence for how much you just were rubbing your bodies all over the ground. So we swabbed it, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
We already know it was you, Sonny.
Because nobody else here would have the hairy ass of a 40-year-old man.
Terrifying. Terrifying. Oh my goodness. Can we just talk about how Olivia Newton-John sang circles around everyone else in this movie? It
was hilarious to me that they had her show up and be like, she's an exchange student from Australia. And that's why we have to just forgo the fact that she has an accent. But I feel like she's still...
It's the same thing as 10 Things I Hate About You.
But she's still trying. Do you not get the sense that she's trying to sound American? Because she doesn't sound...
A little bit.
She doesn't sound super Australian, but it just breaks through every so often. So
she's toned it down.
So I feel like they were like, can you do an American accent? And she was like, yes. And then they cast her. And then they were like, wait... because this is based, obviously, off of a stage production where she's not Australian. And they were just like, okay, yeah, fully 10 Things I Hate About You. Wow, they Heath Ledgered her ass. Or, I'm sorry.
inverse, but
They
same thing.
Olivia Newton-John'd Heath Ledger's ass.
His ass.
And we're just like, surprise! It's an exchange student from Australia, and they're so enticing and interesting and cool, and we're just gonna let that slide. But yeah, oh my god, I was very familiar with a lot of the music from this, but hopelessly devoted to you. Why did that sweep me off my feet this watch around? I was like, oh my god, she was just giving, like, everyone else is doing kind of the campy, like, musical theater-y singing. John Travolta aside, he just straight up can't sing. But she, like, fully, she sang her ass off. Which that, I think, is definitely the most impressive song from this. But do you have a favorite out of this entire film? I think that obviously the final number is the most fun, because I just would like every movie that has I would say, like, with a 60% rule, right? If it doesn't, within 60%, generally doesn't make sense for your movie. Like, I'm not asking Schindler's List to do a musical number at the end. Obviously, that falls into the 30%. But 60% of movies, if you could have a scene where they're at a fair and singing at the very end, just to, like, during the credits, please, please consider it, because I just think that is just so fun. And I love to see it, and I just want to see a little group dance. Like, at the end of Slumdog Millionaire, they didn't have to be doing Jive Ho like that, but yet they gave it to us, and it was amazing.
Thank God.
And so I definitely love, also just, like, why are they, like, scoop-a-dee-ba-da-boop-a-da-boop-a-doop, like, not even unintelligible.
I loved the idea of them sitting in their trailers, like, going over and trying, like, almost, like, speaking it to themselves to make sure they get it and they memorize it.
Okay, it's doobop ba-walla walla, not walla walla doobop ba-dam ba-dam ba-dam. Yeah. Like, it's, we gotta get this right.
Shama-lama-lama-lama, yeah, you know what I mean?
But yeah, I honestly think Hopelessly Devoted to You is really the one that I was like, oh my god, like, wow. So that one did kind of take me, by surprise, I guess, a little bit, because there are a couple of, like, minor songs. Like, Rizzo has a song where I, like, can't tell if she's debating on getting an abortion or... No,
I like that one a lot. What is it called? Like, there are worse things I could do.
Yeah, which I'm like, is the point of basically this, like, there are worse things than unprotected sex, or there are worse things than you, like, getting a coat hanger abortion?
I think it's the unprotected sex, because she talks about, like, oh, there are worse things I can do than going with a couple of guys, basically, which I love. This is the first anti-slut-shaming text to exist. Yes,
it's actually the first, what's the reverse of slut shaming? They're virgin shaming. If you're not a slut, get the fuck out of here. We are so pro slut, actually, that you can't even be friends with us until you fucked, is what they say to Sandy.
Truly. Yeah, no, and I love that. T-birds, gross, disgusting, broke. The pink ladies,
woke.
I would sell my soul to be one of the pink ladies if I lived in this universe.
I feel like them giving their friend groups, like, names is the modern equivalent of, like, what the group chat is named, right? Of, like, what do we name the group chat? Is, like, that's, like, ooh, we're the pink ladies. If we all got merch, like, of the group chat name, that would be the modern day equivalent, I think.
Exactly. And I love it.
Which mine, would not be. I feel like the closest thing we had to that was in high school, they let the pit band of the show choir name ourselves. And they're like, we want you guys to feel included because we're called, like, Jazz Hands Extreme Explosion Team. Yeah. And they were like, does the band want to have a name? And we're all like, yeah, we're called the Bush Administration. And they're like, wait, okay, we can't say that. We can't publicize that. And we're like, so don't ask us to name ourselves if you're not going to let us be funny. So I do low-key feel like we were the Bush administration for a hot minute of time.
Absolutely.
And I would have gotten merch. I would have gotten merch if they had let that pass.
Yeah, no. There's definitely bands out there too now where I'm like, that's the name that we used.
Yeah.
That was our name. Like, if you heard of a funk band today called the Bush Administration, it would probably slap.
Yeah, oh yeah. Or the other ones were like WD-49 because we're just 1 point away from being greasy or something. Like we had a bunch picked out, and they were like, we veto all of these. We're like, so then you can call us the Pit Band. Like,
yeah.
Love it. Like what? Like no, we're not calling you guys cock and ball torture. Like what the fuck? You guys are 14. Like no.
Yeah.
This is a school function.
Yeah. Crossing off Obama as a terrorist off the list.
We're all so baked. We're like giving this list to the music teacher. He's like, I fucking hate all you.
Yeah. Oh, that was fabulous. Do we want to get into our regularly scheduled programming?
Yes.
And for this movie, I think that we can forego our rule of saying we're not gonna fuck any of these people because they're quote-unquote teenagers. Listen.
Yeah.
No one's falling for that.
I was literally about to say the same thing. We do usually say, like, obviously even when actors... Nobody under 18 ever actually plays a high schooler. If you're an actor under 18, you're playing an infant. Actually.
A child.
You're, like, they're like, this is a third grader.
Max 12 years old.
Yeah. But we usually have the rule of, like, oh, just if the character's in high school, that just, like, feels... No, like, these are adults. Like I said, Cha-Cha, come on. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That she's going in the list somewhere.
Okay, so is there a main three? Obviously, Danny, Sandy.
And then I feel like it's such a toss-up to do, like, Rizzo, or you could do Kanicki, or you could do...
I would say Rizzo is probably the most prominent. And there's also, like, the one that has the most there.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
For sure. Well, I'm definitely killing Danny Zuko, because he doesn't know where the clit is, and he hates women.
Yep. Yep.
I guess I'll fuck Sandy because I don't really want to marry her, and I am gonna marry Rizzo because we're just we're gonna rule everything.
Exactly. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, that is correct. I also would like honorable mention, I definitely would like to marry their shop teacher. Just the like older lady.
Oh, I loved her.
In coveralls who just is constantly like, yeah, you guys can go do a drag race on school hours. I don't give a fuck. Like, loved that.
Yeah, I think if I opened it up to the whole movie, I would still marry Rizzo. I would fuck Kanicki, because for some reason, even as a kid, he kind of got me. I don't know what it was. I still don't know what it is, but he still kind of gets me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, alright, side character. There's something there.
Is it gender envy? Because I get that a little bit when I see him. I'm like, I want to be a skinny, lanky boy with a comb.
I don't know. I really couldn't say. I wish I knew. And then I'm gonna kill the host of the American Bandstand.
Who fucking slips, what's her name, Maraschino, fucking roofie?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'm killing him.
Yeah, fucked.
Pervert.
Fucked behavior. So much fucked behavior in this movie that then they're like, and now we're gonna make a joke about he put an aspirin in my drink. I was like, wait. Does your school have a guidance counselor? Like,
No.
No shot. Oh my god. And then for your Grease party, what are you serving?
I'm a big fan of one, like, fancy thing for food and drink and one really shitty thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you have hot dogs.
Hell yeah.
For this. Load them up if you want, do whatever, but, like, bare minimum. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy. You're not getting real fancy with it. Just because they have that big diner scene and it's like, what did they serve in the fucking 50s? Hot dogs. That's all I know. Hot dogs, burgers, fries, that's all they had, right? A malt, yeah, exactly. So I think you do hot dogs. But I think you do a fancy drink, and there was one that came across my TikTok feed today that I really liked the sound of. And I think it also fits because of, like, the T-birds. It's a jungle bird.
Ooh.
Which, God, I couldn't actually tell you all the ingredients. But the guy that made it used strawberry syrup instead of simple syrup, which I really liked the sound of. considering there's that really iconic moment where Rizzo throws a strawberry milkshake in Kanicki's face. Really loved that. But it's at not just a bartender. His name's Chris on TikTok. You've probably seen him. But it's essentially like rum, Campari, pineapple juice, lime juice. It's a bit of a fruity cocktail. Sounds really good. So I think you pair those up.
Love. I similarly, rather than a yes and a no or like a high and a low, I did that you get two options. You know, you get to be either a pink lady or a T-bird for your decision. So for the pink ladies, there is a cocktail called a pink lady, and it's simply 3 ingredients: gin, grenadine, and an egg white. That's fucking it.
That sounds horrible.
That's it.
That sounds really bad.
Yeah, so that's a pink lady, and then I think
nothing like soda water or something.
No, it's just it's a sipping drink, I think. But I figured that a T-bird similar is just a shot of Jameson, because that feels like right for that. And then for foods, I fully based it off of like the county fair, like the school fair at the end.
Nice.
So the pink ladies is a funnel cake with some strawberries and like cream on top, and then the T-birds is just a turkey leg. Like, just like, I feel like I know that's a thing at like Disney World, but I also feel like that's a thing at a lot of like state fairs, is just like a gargantuan turkey leg.
Definitely.
So it's like you either get, you know, for the girlies or for the boys. You either get a funnel cake.
There are 2 genders.
Yeah, there are 2 genders: grenadine, gin, and funnel cake, or Jameson and turkey leg. Like, that's, that's what I'm gonna reduce it down to, I think.
I like that. Those are good options.
And then other than my obvious suggestion that you go watch that Chris Fleming comedy bit, and also just go down a hole of Chris Fleming YouTube videos, please. Like, so fucking funny.
Yeah.
My first movie thought was La Bamba. Do you know this movie? Like, about...
I watched La Bamba so much as a kid as well.
Right? I feel like they play that song like several times throughout this movie, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's on in the background in the diner at one point, and then they're like singing it at one point. Like somebody's like humming it. I don't know. This movie was just giving La Bamba, but I ultimately do have to say that you must be doing the modern retelling of this story that is perhaps more successful because lessons are learned, and that is High School Musical.
Yeah.
Because
I think you're right.
You know, at the end, it's him who has to learn how to sing for her, and that's how the way it should be. And also, you know, we're all in this together. He knows how to dribble a basketball, unlike some men, unlike John Travolta. So I'm gonna say you should watch High School Musical after this.
That's a good one. I think that you watch Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. While I don't think that a lot of newly adapted musical to screen like films are really good, I do think that one still has the zest that Grease has. So yeah, I think give that a go. It's still fun. It's well lit, which you don't get with movies these days. The dance sequences go crazy, you know, so.
Oh, and my boyfriend, Mike Faced.
Oh my god. How are you seeing all the Challengers trailers dropping?
They just made him blonde, which is like really, I've been having to take a really stark defensive position for a lot of, you know, a lot of comments.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's a hard loss for you, but
it's still doing it for me. And my thing though, I'm so sorry. Like, I know, how do you say his name? Luca Guadagnino. Him. Yeah. If he doesn't make those 2 boys kiss, then what did I show up for then? If it's not...
Oh no, they're making out.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if it's a love triangle in the sense that it's Zendaya, like, in between these 2 men, like, that's what it's being sold as, and I really hope that they're doing that just to subvert the fact that it's actually, like, super gay. Because
I don't know if it'll be super gay, but I think they'll definitely smooch.
A real love triangle also means that everyone in the triangle is triangling. Yeah. Like, that's what that means. Jacob and Edward should have kissed. Like, if it was a true love triangle, there would have at least been some tension. But it's neither here nor there. I didn't love West Side Story, but I also just like don't really give a shit about that. Like really the only parts are like when you're a jet, and I was like, this is kind of fun, but otherwise I was like, yeah.
You should actually, I'm going to change my answer and say that you should watch Cher's West Side Story, where she plays every character.
Oh my god, I love that.
Sorry, my bad.
That's the correct answer. And thank you all for listening. I'm sorry again that the audio was shitty last week, and we're working on it. I am not a sound engineer, although I would like to be. But no, sorry, not happening. And I don't know what we're doing for next month yet, so send us in your movie. Yeah, send us in your movie suggestions. Who knows? Maybe you'll spark an idea, or we'll just do something fucking random, or I don't know. We don't know yet. So definitely DM us. All of our shit is in the description below as always. Click on links, please. Watch our stupid videos. And we love you all. Thank you for listening, and goodbye and good night.